Ms. Denham, thank you for your testimony as well. I was very interested in some of the work you've done in the UK, and I really believe that your testimony provides a lot of weight in respect to the amendments we need to make in respect to children. Prior to this meeting, I looked at the age-appropriate design, a code of practices for online services that came from the Information Commissioner's Office in the UK. In that document, it is outlined that there are 15 principles related to the protection of children's data. Those include the best interest of the child, data protection impact assessments, age-appropriate applications, transparency in respect to how companies are using data, I presume, the detrimental use of data, policy and community standards, default settings, data minimization, data sharing, geolocation, parental controls, profiling, nudge techniques, connected toys and devices, and other online tools. I presume, given your expertise, that you're somewhat familiar with the Code of Practices outlined in the United Kingdom, and which are also part of the Data Protection Act of 2018 and Section 123 of the UK bill. Given your expertise, would it be your recommendation that this committee adopt a similar code of practice to ensure that children across Canada are not subject to online harms?
In all the work that I've done as a regulator over 15 years, the work that I think is most impactful and the work that I'm most proud of is developing the age-appropriate design code. The code is a statutory code, which means that it's enforceable by the Commissioner and by the court. So it's not guidelines, and it falls directly from the UK GDPR. So the UK GDPR has some provisions in it that I would recommend need to be in the CCPA. And one of them needs to be a statement in the preamble or in the purpose statement that recognizes that companies need to provide services in the best interests of the child. And that language comes out of the UN Convention that I mentioned earlier, and Canada is a signatory to that. So the best interests of the child.
Thank you for that. I think on that point, please be assured that the Conservative Party will be putting forward an amendment, and hopefully the other parties will work with us to see a clause on the best interests of children put into this legislation. Just a point of clarification, my mic was off earlier. Did you write the code of practice, the code standards for children in the UK?
Yes, I did with my team. We were directed to write a code by Parliament. So it was a requirement in the Act. It was a one-line requirement to have an age-appropriate design code. My team worked for 2 years. We had 57 roundtables across all industry sectors. We worked with child psychologists and parents and children themselves, all the gaming industry, the social media, video sharing companies, and came up with the code. And the code has been deeply inspiring to many countries around the world. Well,
thank you. It's very deeply inspiring to me as a parent of 3 young children, and I know to many other parliamentarians across the political spectrum. In respect to the relationship between Parliament, the Privacy Commissioner in the UK, and the Design Code, does the Design Code and the legislation in the UK provide for flexibility to account for future technologies and future harms that children may face?
It does. So obviously the Commissioner's Office developed the code, but it was laid in Parliament. So Parliament approved the code, which gives it status before the courts that the code needs to be taken into consideration.
One final quick question. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Do you believe that if we took a similar measure here, we would be doing about the right thing to protect children in Canada, to give status of a code such as they have in the UK for Canadian children as well?
Yes, and I think because the CCPA gives the Commissioner a new power to create codes and certification, that there would be a vehicle in the CCPA for the Commissioner to develop such a code, as it's happening across Northern Europe and Argentina and Turkey and Ireland and many places around the world are really, state of California has this code.